The coach remembered the throw before he remembered the boy. One laser across the diamond at a showcase, and that was all it took. No hesitation, no wasted motion, just raw velocity that cut the air in half. Coaches don't forget arms like that. So when the lineup card came out, his decision was blunt. Put him at third. That's how it usually happens. Third base isn't a choice, it's an assignment, not the glamorous shortstop, not the elegant second baseman. It's the hot corner, a place so close to home plate that the ball feels like it's fired out of a cannon. And so the ones with cannons for arms get sent there, whether they like it or not. From the dugout, the logic was simple. The third baseman has to cut off the line, cover bunts, and hurl the ball 130 feet across the diamond before the runner even clears halfway. It isn't about finesse, it's about violence contained inside a split-second reaction. That's why coaches don't look for dancers here. They look for walls. StatCast tells the story better than words. Over 70% of pulled balls from right-handed hitters scream toward the left side of the infield, third base and short, which means the kid with the quick arm isn't just a fielder anymore. He's a magnet, condemned to stand where the danger lives. And while the boy thought it sounded cool, the nickname Hot Corner, the proximity to the crowd, what the coach knew, and the boy didn't yet, was this. The hot corner doesn't make you special. It brands you. The crowd gasped before the boy even knew what had happened. A line drive, clocked somewhere between 100 and 110 miles per hour, came off the bat like a bullet aimed straight at his head. He didn't calculate, he didn't plan. His glove just twitched upward, almost as if his body knew before his brain did. The ball stuck. The inning lived on, and the coach on the sideline shouted like they'd just won a championship. From the stands, it looked heroic. From the dugout, it looked inevitable. At third base, those shots aren't rare. They're the job description. StatCast will tell you, most right-handed hitters yank their hardest contact to the left side, which means, if you're standing at third, you're basically a human crash test dummy in cleats. Plenty of pros have learned the hard way. Matt Chapman, one of the best gloves in the game, still ended up nursing a shredded shoulder after a line drive wrecked him. Others have broken bones, worn bruises that look like tattoos, or staggered off the field dazed because their reflex was half a heartbeat too slow. The truth is, that moment wasn't a triumph. It was an initiation. The boy didn't just stop a ball, he got branded. Coaches saw fearless. Teammates saw reliable. But what no one said out loud was this. Every swing from here on out would feel like a coin toss between survival and disaster. And as the team jogged off the field, the boy still holding the ball, the silence between the gasps told the real story. He hadn't proved he was special. He'd just proved he was stuck. Once a kid survives that first rocket at his chest, the label sticks. Coaches don't call it talent, they call it destiny. From that day forward, he isn't just playing third base. He is a third baseman. That's how the branding works in baseball. Scouts will tell you the difference is subtle but brutal. A shortstop? He's the maestro, graceful range, flashy turns, the infield's conductor. The third baseman? He's the wall. He doesn't dance across the dirt. He absorbs violence at 95 miles an hour and somehow still fires a strike 130 feet across the diamond. One survives chaos, the other orchestrates it. The role breeds its own icons. Manny Machado. Cool, effortless, almost cruel in how easy he makes it look. Nolan Arenado, with choreography in his footwork and a missile in his arm. Adrian Beltre, playful, unbreakable, the kind of durability that felt superhuman. Chipper Jones, steadiness incarnate, proof that consistency can be its own kind of glory. These aren't just stars. They're blueprints for how to live inside the corner without being broken by it. And so the hot corner gets its brand. Not glamour, not applause, but something colder. Reliability, stoicism, the ability to take bruises without complaint and silence without thanks. Third basemen don't smile for the cameras. They carry the weight. But here's the catch. A brand isn't always a blessing. Once you've been cast as the wall, no one asks if you ever wanted to be. And sometimes walls crack. Every position on the field forgives something, except third base. At second, a bobble is just a runner advancing. At short, the range makes up for a late step, but at third, one slip, one bad hop, and it's already carved into the box score like an accusation. That's why they call it the no small mistakes zone. Coaches don't gamble when they fill the hot corner. They don't want the flashy kid who dives for Instagram highlights. They want the quiet one they can trust. The player who eats bad hops like breakfast and still delivers a strike across the diamond. In their eyes, third base is less about beauty and more about insurance. You don't decorate it, you fortify it. And the numbers back the paranoia. Stat sheets show third baseman ranked just behind shortstops in total errors, but unlike a shortstop's miscue, which can get lost in the noise of endless range, a third baseman's mistake is a spotlight. The camera catches it, the scoreboard punishes it, and the crowd remembers it. At third, 10 clean plays buy you silence, but one failure writes your name in ink. So the pressure isn't loud, but it's constant, invisible, humming beneath every pitch. To outsiders, it looks like responsibility. To those who've lived it, it feels like captivity. Because the moment a coach calls you reliable, what he really means is, you don't get to fail. And maybe that's the cruelest irony. Trust doesn't free you, it cages you. By the time his career reached its middle chapters, the shoulder told the story better than the stat line. A third baseman's arm doesn't just ache, it unravels. Medical data backs it. Upwards of 1 in 5 players at the hot corner will miss time in a given season due to shoulder or elbow damage, and that number doesn't account for the ones who keep grinding through the pain, taping themselves into something resembling functional. The science is cruelly simple. Shortstops throw on the run, using momentum to bleed off stress. Third basemen don't have that luxury. Their throws, 130 feet across the diamond, are often flat-footed, pure torque. Every laser across the field is a micro-fracture of trust between the joint and the body, until eventually the body revolts. Scott Rowland embodied the paradox. 8 gold gloves, a Hall of Famer defined by consistency, and yet, also defined by a shoulder that never stopped betraying him. Surgeries, rehab, comebacks that felt like borrowed time. He was proof that greatness at third is written in scar tissue as much as highlight reels. Fans never saw the ice baths, the injections, the slow ritual of strapping down a joint that no longer wanted to cooperate. They only saw the strike across the diamond and assumed health. But in truth, third basemen don't ice to heal. They ice to survive until tomorrow. And that's the bitter punchline. The game forgets the pain the moment the out is recorded, but the body never does. The roar of the crowd is easy to earn. Just clear the fence. A home run hitter takes his trot around the bases, bat flipped, scoreboard flashing, and the noise follows him like a parade. But when a third baseman lays out to snag a screaming grounder, pops up, and fires across the diamond for the out, maybe a polite clap, maybe nothing at all. Silence is the currency of defense. Pitchers, though, know better. Ask one about having a vacuum at third and watch the shoulders loosen. It means they can pound the inside corner against righties without fear, knowing that if the batter yanks one down the line, someone's there to smother it. The ERA shrinks, the strategy opens up, all because a third baseman eats chaos before it reaches the outfield. And yet, the silence remains. Third base is the paradoxical job where the better you are, the less they say your name. The one error will echo louder than the dozen gems. To the fans, you're invisible until you fail. To your teammates, you're indispensable precisely because no one notices. It's a truth that stretches beyond the diamond. The third baseman is the power grid worker, the emergency doctor, the night shift custodian. People only remembered when something goes wrong. Their perfection is supposed to disappear. But here's the twist. Invisibility isn't freedom, it's pressure dressed in quiet. Because in the end, silence doesn't mean safety. It means you're living on borrowed time before the noise finds you. By the end, the compliments change. They stop talking about the cannon across the diamond and start praising leadership, veteran presence, or mentorship in the clubhouse. It sounds noble, but it's really a soft translation. The arm that once fired lasers now needs tape and ibuprofen just to get through pre-game drills. And sooner or later, the role shifts from cornerstone to spare part. That's the trajectory of third base. First, you're the kid with arm strength, the human missile launcher. Then, as the throws lose bite, you're recast as steady, reliable, the old head holding the infield together. Finally, the younger legs arrive, and you're the one making room on the lineup card. Justin Turner lived it, once a star at the corner, later applauded more for toughness and professionalism than raw power. Adrian Beltre stretched it further than almost anyone, laughing through pain, reinventing himself as a sage in cleats before finally stepping away. Icons, yes, but also reminders that even legends get pulled into the undertow. The numbers confirm the script. Third basemen rarely push past 35. Their average retirement age sits lower than first basemen or DHs, roles where strength can outlast reflex. Third base is a cocktail of requirements: explosive reaction, quick twitch speed, and relentless cross-diamond throws, and it punishes aging faster than most positions. So the decline doesn't roar in, it whispers. More tape before games, longer stretches, fewer innings, until one day the coach praises your wisdom more than your glove, and you realize wisdom is just another word for obsolescence. And that's the cruelest twist. The hot corner doesn't let you fade gracefully. It replaces you before you're ready to leave. In football, the legend walks out to fireworks. In basketball, the farewell tour turns every arena into a shrine. Kobe's final game, Dirk's standing ovations, the curtain calls that feel like coronations. But in baseball, especially at third base, endings sound different. Not a roar, not even a whisper. Just a locker stripped bare before the player comes back from treatment. Even greatness isn't immune. Scott Rowland, 8 Gold Gloves, a pillar at the hot corner, waited years before the Hall of Fame finally called his name. And when it did, the celebration was muted, drowned out by louder legends who hit 500 home runs. His induction felt less like a parade than a quiet correction. That's the paradox of the position. You give your body to the game, bruises, surgeries, ice baths that felt like rituals, and still slip out the side door when it's over. Not because you weren't good enough, but because baseball has no script for goodbyes. The game moves forward, and the corner you once guarded so fiercely belongs to someone younger before you've even unclenched your fist. Other sports script happy endings. Baseball, more often, writes none. And maybe that's the truest parting gift of the hot corner. Not applause, not closure, but silence. The kind that leaves you wondering whether being forgotten is a curse or the final proof you did the job too well. What veterans miss isn't the stadium lights or the anthem before first pitch. It's smaller, sharper things. The barked "got it" from a teammate, the smack of leather swallowing a ball, the grit of dirt kicking up as they slid across the foul line. Those sounds were the real heartbeat of the game, the rhythm that kept them alive inning after inning. Glory fades fast, but trust lingers. A third baseman didn't crave applause. He craved reliance, the pitcher daring to pound the inside corner because he knew the corner was protected. The catcher signaling confidently, knowing the wall at third would smother the pull. Being trusted was more intoxicating than any cheer, because it meant the team's safety depended on you, and that perhaps is why the silence stings so much after retirement. In baseball, the third baseman disappears the moment he's gone. Outside of baseball, the pattern repeats itself. Power grid engineers, overnight doctors, the workers who keep bridges standing, they're invisible until something breaks. Like third basemen, their perfection is designed to vanish. So what do they really miss? Not the fame, not the highlights. They miss being the unspoken answer, the one the system leaned on without ever saying thank you. And maybe that's the cruelest echo of the hot corner. When it's over, you don't miss being noticed. You miss being necessary. Pain doesn't vanish with the final out. It lingers, etched into muscle memory, carved into the joints, stitched into the mind. But here's the paradox. Those scars are not erasures, they're signatures. The bruises, the aching shoulders, the bad hops that left marks, each one became part of the identity, proof that a body once stood its ground in the harshest corner of the field. And in that realization, baseball becomes more than a game. It becomes a parable about recognition, or the lack of it. Because the third baseman's story, silent effort, endless responsibility, no applause for perfection, doesn't belong to sports alone. It belongs to every unseen worker, every night shift nurse, every maintenance hand who holds up a world that rarely bothers to notice until something breaks. That is the quiet injustice, not just of baseball, but of life. Value is measured by crisis, not constancy. And when there is no crisis, the best work disappears into silence. So the final question stretches beyond the foul lines. Are we forgetting the third baseman of our own lives? The ones who absorb risk, who hold the line, who keep the rest of us safe without ever asking for credit. Maybe that is the essence of the hot corner's pain. Not the bruises, not the surgeries, but the silence that swallows devotion whole. And perhaps the game's last twist is this, to remind us that what we ignore might just be what holds everything together.